Hello, everyone. It is 1 p.m. Central, so we will get started. Thank you for tuning in to today's presentation, Tips for Starting a New Textiles, Fashion, and Apparel Pathway Program. My name is Kelsey, and I will be your moderator for today's presentation. First, here is your 30-second introduction to Realityworks for those of you who aren't familiar with us. We are an employee-owned company based in Eau Claire, Wisconsin that creates experiential learning tools for teaching job and life skills. We got our start over 20 years ago when former NASA engineer Rick Germain created the first RealCare baby infant simulator and then went on to found the company that is now Realityworks. Today, our training tools combine curriculum with hands-on learning tools, student activities, and assessments. Baby is still around, but now you can look to us for tools like our bovine birthing and ultrasound simulator, our virtual reality welding simulator, wearable geriatric sensitivity suits, and if you have some time, we encourage you to check out our website and see it all. Presenting today, we have Denise DuBois, who is the Senior Family and Consumer Sciences Product Manager here at Realityworks and has been with us for over 15 years. She is a frequent presenter, trainer, and blogger for all things related to facts, health science, and human services. Denise has experience teaching in Wisconsin and Minnesota and has over 20 years of education marketing experience and professional development. She is also the co-chair for the Alliance for Family and Consumer Sciences and on the Executive Council National Consortium for Health Science Education. Before we get started, I want to cover a couple things. First, today's presentation is being recorded and all attendees will receive a link containing the recording, as well as a copy of the PowerPoint slides and free resources. For those of you attending live today, you will also receive a certificate of completion for attending today's presentation. Keep an eye on your email. You will receive that email within 24 hours after the presentation. We will have time at the end for Q&A, so feel free to type your questions in the chat or Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass things over to Denise.
Thank you, Kelsey, and welcome everyone to our session today on starting a textiles, fashion, and apparel program. This is a brief outline of what we'll be covering in our time together today, but we're really hoping that by the end of our time, that the information shared will really help you save some time as you do your planning. So we have resources, one brand new exploration kit from Realityworks, and many links to other free resources and classroom ideas. So first of all, let's talk about starting out. When you begin to build your textiles, fashion, and apparel program of study, there are many places you can start and resources you can go to. So we're going to take a look at the pathways that pertain to the arts, AV, technology, and communication cluster. Now, here are the pathways within the arts, AV, technology, and communications career cluster. And you could ask yourself, do you wish to create a pathway specific to a program of study or make it broader? Are there pathways you'd like to grow in your school, district, or program? Textiles, fashion, and apparel careers fall within visual arts currently. There are many besides the examples that you see here. And please be aware that as we speak right now, we are in the middle of an updated version of the career cluster model. So the view that you see here is what we're going to call the classic model. But in the next slide, I'm going to share an updated draft and talk about where this specific type of program would fit in that model. So here's the new proposed cluster model, and it puts textiles, fashion, and apparel into a newly named cluster called Arts, Entertainment, and Design. It falls within two subclusters, Design and Digital Arts, and also Fashion and Interiors. And in this new model, there are also some things called cross-cutting clusters that could apply to this area as well. So you see here, some things are highlighted, and there are three clusters that are considered cross-cutting that can work with any cluster. These are digital technology, management and entrepreneurship, and marketing and sales. Now, if you apply these to textiles, fashion, and apparel, you can see how digital technology can be used in related jobs. You can be an entrepreneur in these areas as well. So there are a wealth of textile and apparel marketing and sales related careers also. As you begin to look at what you need in this area, a helpful website to go to is careertech.org/career clusters. This is the area that has information on the modernized career clusters as well as the classic cluster models and resources. And if you go there, this is an editable planning document that is available on their website currently, and we believe it will be available into the future archived. But at that location, this plan of study worksheet we think is really helpful because now here's a sample plan for general arts. There are pathway-specific worksheets in there as well, but it's a planning tool that you can use to help lay out the courses that you're going to need in your textiles, fashion, and apparel pathway or plan of study. And we will share some resources that can help you build out your plan of study. But first, let's take a look at what makes an effective program. Just a note, you could also create your own planning document, such as the sample you see here on the screen, by creating a grid with major course areas listed across the top, and then the grade levels listed on the left-hand side. So here are 6 key elements for developing career pathways. These elements are important to consider for any pathway program you develop, including textiles and fashion. And as we go through the rest of the webinar, think about these 6 key elements and consider how you could use them to guide the development of any textile, fashion, and apparel career pathway that you create. Some of these we'll talk about a little more than others, but you've been given the reference link there. It's just a very helpful resource to go to, again, if you're starting out from ground zero for any pathway. Now, a great place to start is also to look at your national FACT standards. The national FACT standards really provide a clear and consistent understanding of industry and post-secondary expectations for textiles, fashion, and apparel teachers and students. These standards are designed so they provide that essential knowledge to prepare and increase the number of students that are college and career ready. And you can access these national FACT standards at the link that we provided above. But when you go to them, you'll notice that they provide measurable accountability and a really comprehensive framework and validation. And the one standard that really pertains mostly to textiles, fashion, and apparel is 16.0, which you see on the screen above. Now, also look to national certifications or credentials in the area that you're planning for to see what's included in mastery to obtain those credentials. And here is one for the American Association of Family and Consumer Sciences and AAFCS, and it's fashion, textiles, and apparel. It's a credential that's appropriate for programs at both the secondary and post-secondary education levels, also community-based education, and even employer-based staff development. And eligible candidates for this type of pre-professional credential, it doesn't mean you've obtained a bachelor's degree, but it's a really good blueprint for the certification listing competency areas tested for. And this is really helpful information when you're putting together your program. If you can see what skills that they value, you should be thinking, how can I weave those into my program? Again, if you think back to those 6 key elements when you're designing a effective textiles, fashion, and apparel program, this is certainly one of those 6 key areas. Now, another area you can look to is the Common Career Technical Core Standards for the clusters. And here's the one for the cluster as it exists right now. And if you're saying, what are the Common Career Technical Core standards? Well, they're a common set, they're benchmark standards for CTE. And it's really what students should know and be able to do at the end of a program of study. And that's after completing that sequence of courses aligned with challenging academic and CTE content that spans both secondary and post-secondary settings. So review the standards that apply to the pathway that you're developing. And this helps you ensure that you're teaching these basic core competencies in your program. Again, this is part of that 6 key elements for where you're designing effective education programs surrounding textiles, fashion, and apparel. Here's something called knowledge and skill statements. This can also be found at careertech.org. And they have these knowledge and skill statements for every cluster area. And they even have specific pathway or subcluster skills, knowledge and skill statements as well. But these are identified and they help you know what students should know. And this is also an editable template that can help you develop the course content for your plan of study. While the career clusters are being updated with the newly modified model that I showed you, This URL is still a valid place to go. And again, this type of information, these knowledge and skill statements will be there. We've been assured as an archived asset for you to take a look at. So as you involve local textiles, fashion, and apparel professionals in your pathway development, you'll know that's a very critical step, because how can you understand what local employers are looking for if you don't ask? So one key thing is to consider putting together an advisory council. We'd recommend that you choose your members from a variety of settings and differing levels of responsibility to get a variety of viewpoints and input. You could suggest that you meet on a regular basis, maybe quarterly, but really have a frank dialogue and ask, what are you looking for in your employees? Does our course content align with what you're looking for in the employees that you hire? And you could perhaps even use advisory council members to form partnerships. Ask them if they're willing to allow students at their location to either job shadow or even perhaps get some experience. Also, might they be interested in coming in to be a guest speaker for your classes? But engaging employers is one of those 6 key elements for developing career pathways, as seen in that earlier slide. Many districts require that career pathways created lead to some sort of industry recognized certification or credential. And in order to find the right credential or certification for your program, you could be asking some of the questions that you see on the slide. Does your state Department of Education recommend specific certification or agencies? What kind of requirements do your instructors need to teach the courses, if any? What are employees looking for? Is employment transferable? And then what is the cost of some of these certifications or specific credentials? But it's great for, as you're starting out developing that new program, to make sure you're researching and finding out what to do so that your students can get properly certified. Are there any certifications that your students can go after? So as you think back to the 6 key elements for developing career pathways, certifications and credentials are a part of the step for aligning policies and programs. Now, we mentioned the AAFCS certification a few slides ago when looking for IRCs and lists of skills that should be taught within textile, fashion, and apparel. And we're going to share a few more places that you can go to look for credentials. So first of all, here's a national organization at NACTI, and they have a fashion, technology, and merchandising industry-based credential included in their job ready assessment battery. Now, their job ready assessments measure the technical skills at the occupational level, and they include items which gauge factual and theoretical knowledge. And their job ready assessments typically are both written and performance based components, and they can be used at both the secondary and the post-secondary levels. And job ready assessments can also be delivered either online or in paper pencil format. So I thought this one was definitely worth a mention as you look at credentials and certifications. There are also vendors that exist out there that have certifications, and UScience is one that I'm familiar with that I cite as an example. But when you search them, they actually have 6 different certifications that you can go after. And on the right-hand side is a blueprint for one of them. And you can you also use this to help guide the types of certifications you go after, and even the types of skills that you can see are on something like this, and consider making sure that you're covering those in your program of study. Here's another one, Certiport, and they have multiple certifications that vendors that they work with, but their topics tend to range from things more like soft skills, things like communication, entrepreneurship, digital marketing, customer service, and more. But you can see how even a vendor like this, you could apply these types of skills and certifications to the fashion and textile industries. Now, here is a list of fashion designer credentials that one organization believes are the top ones. Now, some are specific institutions, but you can see on this list, one that I highlighted was an Adobe Photoshop certification. And I thought that's definitely something that I think you can earn even in high school as a credential. So don't forget about your CTSO competitive events. You can check those out, and they're also a great source. They are a helpful thing to go to help identify the types of skills that these organizations see value in. And I did a look at FCCLA, Skills USA, and the Technology Student Association. So first with FCCLA, I think there were four that I'm highlighting today. There might be a few more, but their Fashion, Construction, and Design Challenge is a knowledge and skill test, and it allows students to demonstrate their knowledge of fashion, construction, and design subject matter, including things like vocabulary, elements and principles of design, and textile knowledge. The Fashion Sketch Skills Demo is an individual event, and it recognizing students for their ability to design and sketch based on a provided design scenario. Star Events, that's also an individual event, but it recognizes students who apply fashion construction skills learned in family and consumer science courses to create a display using samples of their skills. Now, when you move over to Skills USA, their competitors demonstrate and explain an entry-level technical skill used either in an occupational area for which they're training or outside the training area. But the competition requires a demonstration of performing an occupational skill accompanied by a very clear exploration of the topic using experiments, displays, or practical operations. And I also did find that screen printing technology one through Skills USA as well. And just a little bit more about that, it says competitors are evaluated on the ability to prepare screens. They register a multicolored design on a manual printing press, and then they print a multicolored design on a manual, also using a manual printing press. There's also a written technical knowledge test as part of that as well. And then lastly, the Technology Student Association has fashion, design, and technology. And their theme is avant-garde. And it's characterized by a radical approach. So it values the aesthetic innovation and unorthodox and experimental approach. So you combine fabrics of different textures and shapes that result in clothing that's affordable but artistic. So again, a fun place to go to see what those CTSOs value and want to challenge their students to know. Now, here are some family and consumer science specific as well as industry specific organizations that will have some helpful information as you develop your fashion, textile, and apparel program. First of all is AAFCS. We talked a little bit about that with the certification that they have, but they have a whole lot more when you go to that link. There is an ACTE Family and Consumer Sciences division that you see on the link there. And then just a couple that are industry-wide. There's an Advanced Textiles Association, the ATA. There's also an International Textile and Apparel Association. So if you're looking for more information, those are great links to go to. So pathway program of study. Why I included this is because, why reinvent the wheel? It takes very little to do a search and seek out other school programs of study to see the types of courses that they're using in their pathway. And these are just two examples of ways that other high schools have organized their pathway and some of the information they've provided. So when you're starting from scratch, seeing a template from another high school could be very, very helpful as you consider what you would like to do. So now we're going to move on to a special guest speaker that we have today. Gayla Randall, a fact specialist from Montana, will be talking to us about tips for creating an apparel, fashion, and textile program.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for listening today as I go over some tips on creating a apparel, fashion, and textiles program. My name is Gayla Randall. I've been working within Family Consumer Science Education State Administration for about 18 years. And since about 2014, I've really explored and connected with individuals in this field to share across the nation what apparel and textiles really means in family consumer sciences. So I'm going to share some of that with you today. First, I want to share with you that the industry is vital to the global and the U.S. economy. It is a huge industry, internationally or globally, $1.2 trillion is the value, 380 billion in the United States. It's part of the GDP. The workforce is huge. It's 3.38 billion are working globally, and we have 1.8 billion in the United States. So when individuals state that it's not an industry, that there's a high need in the United States, that's a misnomer. It really is. It's the fourth largest industry in the world. There's four components to the industry. One is the raw product. It's the growing of the cotton, the shearing of the sheep. We don't, as family consumer science professionals, do a lot in the actual raw product production, but we do in the next three. The designing and branding, the understanding of the textiles, and selection of what textiles should be utilized for what use is something that we're pretty well trained in. The manufacturing has to do with the sourcing of the materials as well as the actual fabrication of the product. If it's on a mass scale, it will be in a factory. If it's on a smaller scale, it'll be in an atelier space, making less number, or it can be personal use where something is fabricated or sewn just for a family member. And then we have the promotion and sales, which also includes merchandising, the buying of the product, the buyers, as well as the window displays and the online sales. So we, as family consumer science professionals, can very easily introduce students to, yes, there is a raw production, but the designing, manufacturing, promotion, and sales is all connected within this industry. And it's our obligation to introduce that to the students. One of the sites that I think we should be familiar with right at the very, very beginning is Lead FCS Education. I've given you a QR code, and also at the bottom of the slide, you will see the actual website links where you can just write it in yourselves. But Lead FCS does two things, one of which has national standards, which are written by teachers, state administrators, and business and industry related to those fields. And these standards provide guidance to ensure rigor is included in your instruction. But the other thing that it does is it's not an area of study that stays within one particular area. Yes, there is one area of study that's called Textiles, Fashion, and Apparel, but we also can find some of the standards under Career, Community, and Family Connections, because that's where the employability skills are practiced and introduced. We also need to look under facilities and property management, because this has to do with utilizing equipment safely, and as well as cleaning and maintenance of those particular pieces of equipment. We also have housing and interior design. So textiles is not just clothing. It's your car's seat covers, because leather and vinyl are both considered textiles. It's the curtains in your house. It's the upholstery on your chairs and your couch. It's the pillows that you use, your bedspreads, and so forth. And then we also have interpersonal relationships, and this is where we go back and revisit the employability skills in working with clients as well as working with fellow workers in the industry. The second thing that Lead FCS does, it's created a framework for how family consumer science addresses things in the workforce. So visual arts and design, the lower left blue section, is where you'll find interior design, the merchandising, and also the fashion design component. But if you're able to utilize or look at the plus sign right there, this actually will provide you more guidance. You'll have this sheet open up, and it'll tell you more about the workforce, wage and data need, the careers that are included, and so forth. So putting this all together, looking at the key sets and trends, skill set and trends that I see in the industry that you'll want to consider, is teaching your students basic textile knowledge. They need to know the characteristics and why you select one textile over another for the use. Understanding sewing, which the industry calls fabrication, is vital. Taking a flat piece of fabric or textiles and turning it into something that you wear in your body, or you upholster something with. Textiles is more than apparel, so students need to fully understand the broadness of this. Startup businesses is commonplace. Having a niche market idea for a product using textiles, commonly apparel, is key. And so students need to be introduced to the entrepreneurial facet, which does mean then if you don't have the local workforce, you don't have the local businesses that would employ the students, that doesn't mean that they can't start their own business. And very, very much that's how Coco Chanel and Ralph Lauren and a number of designers started. They started small, they were entrepreneurial in nature, and now they're multi-national, global businesses that have been in place for many, many years. As far as future, what I see is sustainability manufacturing of fabrics using sustainability fibers like cotton or wool, as well as using minimal resources, not so much water in the processing, using those natural dyes that then dissolve in the environment that we have, rather than some of the man-made, more chemical related colorants and things. But then also ranging to the e-textiles, which is where a monofilament that's actually a wire is knitted together to perform different functions, from potentially using solar to create something in a pocket where you can charge your cell phone, or even having these fibers be able to heat or cool the body. This is the futuristic use of textiles. So introducing your students to both of those, it would be vital as well. So in summary, the industry is important with a large number of opportunities, and many of those are entrepreneurial in nature. There's 4 segments in the industry which we need to introduce our students to, so they see where they fit in the overall scheme of this area. Base your work on the SCS national standards. That will give the rigor, and also look at the framework, which is that circle that I had shown you, because that shows you the relevance of what you're providing. Involve your local industry if you can, but if you can't, reach out to a local 2-year, 4-year university and connect with those particular programs. Or you may have met someone or have a past graduate that's in the industry. You can use virtual communication to work with them and have them serve, say, on your advisory committee. So it is key that as you start a program, you reach out to industry. It just doesn't necessarily have to be local. Remember the entrepreneurial nature. So I thank you very much. There's my contact information. Reach out to me if you have any questions. But it's very exciting to know that you're interested in starting this program as we establish family consumer sciences as a major player in this area. So have a great day, and maybe we'll run into each other in the future.
Thank you, Gayla, for your remarks. Now we are very excited to launch and share a brand new resource from Realityworks called our Textiles and Apparel Career Exploration Kit. And you can see a photo of the contents on the screen in front of you, along with a list of the contents. But all of the items in the kit are integrated into all of the lessons. We try to make all of the lessons very engaging and also applicable to a variety of different related careers. And we will go through those careers now. The 10 careers that you see on the screen in front of you were ranked highest or most desirable to include in a kit like this when we surveyed family and consumer science teachers from around the country. So we chose those. There's a lesson devoted to each of them, where students are introduced and they understand, what that job is, typical duties, and then we've woven in hands-on activity related to each of the occupations. If you taught all of the 10 lessons, and each of the lessons really can be a standalone lesson as well, but if you taught all of them, it would be approximately an hour per lesson. It could go a little more, but about 10 hours. So this is just a very quick look at the different career lessons and the activities. A couple of my favorite ones are where you're using in lesson 7, the mini mannequins to design a clear windows display. So we have some clear display boxes that you're going to put your mini mannequins inside, and you're going to create that window display. So that's one of my favorite ones for sure. And then another one that I think is very interesting, you're going to take pocket microscopes, and we've provided 5 different types of textiles samples, and your students are going to be able to take a very up close and personal look at each of the weaves of those different textiles, and that spawns conversations about the differences and what's the appropriate use or what's the best use for them. But some of the emerging textile technology is a very exciting area for occupational growth right now. But you can see we've got a lot of opportunity for students to do designing things and being entrepreneurial and doing patterns and all sorts of displays, designing a pitch deck as an influencer. So we hope that we've chosen activities that make it very engaging and also make it very exciting for students to contemplate where they might be able to plug into this particular industry. few of the features that we'd like to point out. First of all, the careers were chosen by educators and some subject matter experts that we spoke with. But each of the lessons focuses on a different specific occupation. It's a great way for your students to get, and also an efficient way for students to get exposure to many potential careers that they may not even know are available to them. So they're introduced to them, they get some hands-on with it, just to get a taste to build up their excitement. We also keep classroom management front and center, so your students would be able to pair up, and we've got enough material so about 30 students in a class could participate. And then we've also aligned these to our National Family Consumer Science Standards. And again, those are those standards that we spoke of earlier, but you can see cluster 16 is where all of that type of thing happens. And specifically 16.1 is for career exploration within fashion, apparel, and textiles. So if you think back to earlier in our session today, when we were talking about that editable plan of study document, well, you begin to see how you can fit these types of hands-on tools, such as a career exploration kit, into the courses that you're going to put into your plan of study. And a kit like this certainly fits great into the introduction to arts, AV technology, and communication. I love this infographic because it's just a great snapshot for the many types of occupations that your students could potentially go into. Now, workers we know will always be in demand in this particular area. There are so many opportunities for your students to find work. And if you're looking for evidence of that, the Bureau of Labor Statistics should be your go-to resource for anything statistically related. And they've got all sorts of helpful maps and interactive things for students to take a look at if they really wanted to do a deep dive. So just a few more free resources from Realityworks before we open it up for Q&A that we'd like to share. First of all, you will get access to some free lesson plans at the first link. Then there's followed up by some more classroom ideas at the second link. We have many different career exploration implementation guides available. We've got posters, and we've also got some webinars each month, similar to the one that you're participating in today, that are free that you can sign up for. So just a word of a few of the things we have available that you might want to check out. Now, with this QR code, we want to help you connect with us. So if you scan that QR code, we can certainly connect you with an account manager, certainly get you free quotes for anything related to some of the things you maybe seen today. Or if you have questions, we love to also have questions, which leads us to our Q&A. I know that Kelsey's been watching the chat area. And Kelsey, do we have any questions that anyone has posted?
Yeah, one of the questions is what grade level is this kit geared towards?
Really, it should be grade 9, maybe 10. You could perhaps go as early as 8th grade, but early high school is the primary target.
Okay. Awesome. And then another question is that kit available for purchase today?
I believe that it is. I know that we recently added several new products to our website, and this was one of that group. So if you go out to realityworks.com and you look under Family Consumer Science New Resources, it should be there.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, that is all the questions that I'm seeing at this time.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for spending the time with us today. We hope we've given you some information and sources to go to if you are considering developing your brand new program on textiles, fashion, and apparel. Thank you, everyone.